بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد عبدك ونبيك ورسولك نبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Take that moment and just breathe with me for a second. I know subhanAllah is, everyone's got so many different things pulling them. So just take a moment, take that breath, inshallah, and let's recalibrate. Let's remind ourselves the blessing of this moment of being able to do this work of alhamdulillah, focusing on not just our relationship with alhamdulillah, getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but the sincerity and sometimes the difficulty that comes in this path of wanting to grow. It's not an easy path, but it's the most sweetest one and is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls us to. So I just want to commend you for that. Alhamdulillah, this community is really, mashallah, comprised of people who obviously joined because you recognize this path of growth is so important because it leads you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The path of growth, the path of shedding sometimes layers and shedding stories and shedding unhealthy habits. This is what brings us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, disciplining ourselves, disciplining our nafs, disciplining and aligning with, inshallah, the values, the vision, the purpose that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us for. SubhanAllah, again, I mentioned this last week. The joy of coaching is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be teaching you so much through your clients. And that's such a beautiful, beautiful journey to be on. Alhamdulillah. Obviously, you're going to continue to grow. Every client brings you, a new dimension of hopefully something that you see in yourself or something you have not thought about before. And I think that's like one of the biggest, alhamdulillah, and most profound blessings of this relationship that you'll have, inshallah, with your clients. And again, anyone that you're coaching. So what I want to talk about today is how do you start a coaching practice, right? I think so many people who are kind of on the fence about, do I do a coaching certification? Do I start this journey? How do I actually start a coaching practice if that's something that you want to do? Like I said, I know there's people, mashallah, who are just doing this for their career, and that's wonderful as well. And even in that, you might have some goals and something you want to start off on the side. So alhamdulillah, I built a successful coaching practice separately from Discovery years back, and now mashallah, it's merged. But I had built that up and I had started on my own. And then, inshallah, in today's conversation, it's going to be short, powerful, I hope, sweet, that you're going to be able to take some profound lessons away. And I hope maybe I can challenge some of the stories you might have around it that don't necessarily help you. And I think the two areas I really want to focus on, and I can't go into depth because it's like there's so much. And obviously in Adbum, we have mashallah full module on marketing and building up your messaging and all of the details that go into marketing. So marketing is a loaded term. There's so many layers to it. I'm going to do my best to just focus on two aspects that I think will be really helpful as you're thinking about, can I really build a successful coaching practice? Like, do I have it in me? Do I really know what I'm doing? And I think first and foremost, one of the things I want to establish that I think will be really helpful, something that inshallah can help save a lot of time, save a lot of mistakes, and hopefully allow you to cut through the noise, understanding, inshallah, your client, understanding who you are serving. This is really powerful. And now you might be like, well, Razia, yeah, I know exactly who I'm serving. One of the biggest and common mistakes I see people doing is where they are thinking of the person they're serving and it's really themselves. They're just like, yep, this is exactly what I know I would want. And they maybe coordinate their message, or they are crafting not just their message, but even like what they're kind of building their skill set to be. And it's solely based on their personal life experience and like what they think someone like them would want. Now, there is some value in this. Of course, your life experience is going to inform, inshallah, your message, how you show up as a coach. It can't solely be based on that. And this is where I think one of the most beautiful aspects of alhamdulillah being and serving in our community is you've got to know the people you're serving. You've got to, and when I say know, I mean like actually get to know. Go and do some of the research. Go and alhamdulillah, try to understand the unique needs, the preferences, some of the nuances that are unique to maybe the demographic, the age group that you're serving. This is so important. I see so many people just crafting their message, crafting their services, crafting, inshallah, what they want to do based solely on themselves. They've never talked to someone, or they think they know what other people want. You have to have those conversations. You've got to go out and speak to people. And if you're like, yeah, but I don't know anyone, or I don't know how to do it. Trust me, if you can't do that step, then it's going to be much harder to do it later on as you want to get more and more established. So this is kind of like your training wheels. That's what I would really encourage you to get down, is understand, inshallah, your clients, understand who you are serving. And, it's, again, alhamdulillah, if you're here and you're wanting to start this journey, it starts right here by coaching yourself. Imagine you're hosting a party, right? Imagine you're hosting a dinner party at home. A good host is usually aware of the preferences that their guests have. They're aware of, what the needs are, what kind of crowd, age, their interests, maybe some activities. Like, a good host really wants to give an incredible experience. As a good coach, inshallah, it's no different. Right? How can you, let's say you have some, guests over and they all have peanut allergies, and you're like whipping up, things with peanut sauce and peanut oil. Can you imagine? And then you're like, well, why didn't the guests eat it? Well, why didn't you take the precautions that were needed so that way they could have an enjoyable time and really be served properly? So this is no different. So this is what you're doing, inshallah, is go speak to your audience. If your audience is mothers who, new moms, if your audience is, empty nesters, if your audience is, people starting off their career, whoever it is, go and speak to them, ask them detailed questions. And in Adwam, alhamdulillah, we have like a whole module that gives you questions on like focus groups, when you're conducting focus groups, how to do them effectively. Also, we have weekly group coaching sessions where you can ask those questions, but also, alhamdulillah, getting messaging down. Like, one of the best compliments, alhamdulillah, that I get in my work, in my messaging I put out, is when people respond to me and they say, this spoke directly to me. This felt like this is written for me, or I felt like you were, crafting this message for me. And I'm like, that is, alhamdulillah, the best compliment I can get, because that shows I'm connected to my community. I know exactly what they're struggling with. I know the common blocks that come up, and clearly, alhamdulillah, they felt heard and seen, and that built a connection that, alhamdulillah, allows them to build trust with me. And then obviously, inshallah, they want to work with me. And that's how, that was honestly like one of the biggest factors I know that, alhamdulillah, allowed me to gain that momentum, and Allah kind of facilitated that, getting that messaging right, really speaking. I must have spoken to like at least 100 people before I got like my messaging really refined. And that was through one-on-one conversations. That was through going to community programs and talking to where my potential clients were, just really knowing where they hung out, what they were doing, what their interests were, what their challenges were. I was always also active in my community locally. So alhamdulillah, I was part of developing programs always. So I was always having these kind of conversations, and that was a huge benefit. So that's number one, inshallah, I'm sharing. And I'm only sharing two things today because these are big. If you get this right, I'm telling you, alhamdulillah, you'll get a lot of other things that will fall into place, because that's where then your branding comes in. And I'll talk about effective marketing strategies, inshallah, in a later week. And like I said, we do have a whole business module in that one where we go deeper into this. So is this speaking to you? Do you get it? Have you started speaking to anyone when it comes to, inshallah, what you're trying to do? Maybe even the niche. I've had people who are like, oh, this is the niche I'm going to do, or this is what I'm going to focus on. And they go and speak to people, and it doesn't connect, or it's not clear. They're not even sure what they're, trying to convey, and people feel confused. That's never a good sign if someone feels confused. So this is a really good opportunity. The next thing that I want to focus on, inshallah, and this is a really big one, and that is, alhamdulillah, delivering value in everything, inshallah, that you do. And delivering value is really about, alhamdulillah, being authentic, right? Being sincere. And alhamdulillah, we know, for example, in the beautiful, hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which many books, are started by, that actions are judged by intentions. And this is no different, right? The importance of, alhamdulillah, reminding ourselves, wait, why am I doing this work? Why am I serving this person? Why do I want to help them? Sometimes when you lose touch with this, it can create like a big gap. And that's where a lot of the other things of insecurity, imposter syndrome, confusion, feeling overwhelmed can kick in. And so much more. So, stress can kick in here as well. So the importance, inshallah, of being sincere, so that way, alhamdulillah, it allows you to bring value. Once you can be sincere in why you're doing this, and you constantly, inshallah, come back to that intention, it allows you to bring value, alhamdulillah, because you're so much more focused on the other person. Like right now, when I'm speaking to all of you and you're listening to me, I'm not focused, and this is obviously because of the work, alhamdulillah, and this journey I've been on for so long. I'm not focused on, oh my God, what are they thinking of me? Like that's not, alhamdulillah, something I've trained myself. I don't care about that. That's not what I'm focused on. I'm focused on how are they connecting with this knowledge? How is this knowledge going to be relevant to them right now? So a lot of new coaches and, honestly, even like just other people in any kind of service program, even a lot of therapists that, I've supported and coached, they get so hung up on, oh my God, like, do I sound smart? Or do I look proper? Or are they, what do they think of me? When you're stuck in that place, you are going to stagnate. You are going to be caught up in insecurities. And honestly, it's going to, the value you bring is going to be affected. Whereas, alhamdulillah, when you focus on your intention, it's going to affect, mashallah, the level of value and quality you bring because your focus is completely different. And alhamdulillah, if you're focused on bringing value, versus how is the perception of me, it's going to shift the focus of how you're serving as well. And you're going to be tuned into things that maybe the person is saying. You're going to be tuned into other nuances that you might have missed. And that's really powerful. And again, I think there's so many incredible examples of the Prophet, where he demonstrated that, right? Where he was so focused on these small things that other people would have missed because he was focused on serving and guiding and supporting the individual. So this is a really important point, I think, when it comes to building a strong, inshallah, coaching brand. And alhamdulillah, delivering value should be the number one goal, right? That obviously the goal is to bring people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but through that, it's I want to be able to benefit this person. And we know that, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the deed that I hold really close to myself and to my coaching journey is the strong believer is more beloved to Allah than the weak believer, but in both of them is good. And we know that that strength in that hadith is not defined by physical strength, but really it's the strength of, being someone who uplifts others, being someone who, alhamdulillah, brings value to others. The other hadith that I hold on to a lot in my work and in the spaces I hold is, being one who brings more value. A person, the Prophet said, be the believer who, and I'm rephrasing it, but be the believer who leaves a place better than they found it. And so if you enter conversations with that mindset, right, you're always going to want to, inshallah, bring something of beauty to that gathering. You're always going to, inshallah, want to enhance that conversation with bringing, inshallah, value and giving more than you're receiving. And if you are doing that, alhamdulillah, you are going to radiate so much more than you can imagine. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will facilitate that, but it goes back to the sincerity and intention. So I think so many times people are caught up in focusing on how am I being perceived, that it stagnates their level of impact and their ability to really connect with people and their ability to, I think, be successful coaches. And so if you could focus on these two things, inshallah, that I shared today, like I said, number one, right? Let's type it in. What are you taking away, right? Number one was, alhamdulillah, really understanding who your audience is, connecting with your audience, actually having conversations, knowing their preferences, their needs, their challenges. So alhamdulillah, you are speaking to them and not just like imagine you're speaking to yourself and that what I need is what exactly everyone needs. So giving yourself, alhamdulillah, informed data, right? Inshallah, humbling yourself to be able to serve properly. And then the second thing is being sincere and authentic, because that will allow you to bring value, inshallah, as a coach. And if you do that in who you are as a believer and you carry yourself with this mindset of, I want to, inshallah, bring value to the interactions I have, because you never know who you're speaking to. And I shared this with our, in Ad1, we have our weekly group coaching calls, and they're amazing. And alhamdulillah, we have like such incredible questions that our coaching certification students ask. We've got students, mashallah, who are starting the coaching journey, people who are, mashallah, professors, people who are establishing their careers, and moms who are, mashallah, trying to, start a career, a coaching career on the side. And so, alhamdulillah, we've got this like beautiful spectrum. How do you reach people? And so many of us have circles that we are part of. We have spaces that we are part of. However, we constantly think that like one day, like basically you're going to be standing in a room with, 100 people who are like, oh yes, I want you to be my coach. The reality is it happens through one-on-one conversations where someone hears something and alhamdulillah they benefit, and then they'll refer someone to you, or they might mention you to someone else, or they might need it. You don't know. And that's why being sincere, inshallah, having the niyyah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will facilitate and open doors. And if you are always in that mindset of, I want to bring value, I want to benefit, I want to be the believer who benefits people more than they receive, you will not undermine any conversation that you're in. You will not treat any conversation like it's nothing, right? That comes back to that humility. So I can't express to you how many conversations I had as I was building my coaching career where I literally did not know who I was speaking to, or I thought like, again, didn't know who they were. And sometimes they were, mashallah, like really reputable people, but I was focused on the value. I was focused on, I want to bring this person, I want to uplift them. I want to bring them closer to Allah. I can see a challenge, and just showing up, alhamdulillah, I think with that kind of focus led to some really incredible relationships and opportunities that like I had no idea. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened for me. And I'm talking like, organizations, alhamdulillah, where I was speaking to the CEO, had no idea they're the CEO of that organization, and just again focused on, supporting them in that conversation that I was having. And it led to, corporate contract of spiritually coaching their team, which is incredible. So, and that happened through just having a casual conversation where I was alhamdulillah showing up as myself and focused on what my values are and what I try to aim for as a coach. So that's really important. Be sincere, be authentic, have your intentions constantly aligned, and seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and bring that value. Don't hold back, don't play small,